Welcome back, Truth Seeker, February 11th, 2019. Before I move on here, I just want to make sure everyone's able to connect to the show tonight. In case you're new here, thank you for signing up. If you want to participate in the live chat, what you want to do is click the play and then this YouTube icon. If you click that, it'll put you in the live chat. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. So, number of stories to talk about. It's a pretty loaded day in history, February 11th, the 42nd day of the year. So we'll start right here. What's happened in February on this day, the 11th? In light of it being the 42nd day, we know that number is very relevant to Black history. And notice, in 1990, Nelson Mandela was freed after 27 years in captivity. What's interesting about the 27 years on this date is February 11th, 92 plus 11 plus 90 is 103. That's the 27th prime number. So the 42nd day of the year, and then a fitting day to end 27 years in captivity. The numbers 103 and 27 coming together so often. On this day in 1531, the Church of England accepted King Henry VIII as its supreme head. And again, it's the 42nd day of the year. King Henry equals 42. If you type in Church of England and Freemasonry, they have quite a bit of history together. No surprise, Church of England equals 139, like Freemasonry. Of course, Freemason is also 42. King Henry VIII, for the record, equals 74, like Masonic. Here's a good one. In 1929, the Lateran Treaty was signed, with Italy recognizing the independence and sovereignty of Vatican City. And, of course, today is the 42nd day of the year. Jesuits 42. Notice the name of the treaty. Lateran, however it's pronounced. Notice the Gematria is 71 and 46. Vatican City is 71 and 46. And Catholic 71 and 46. And people ask me all the time, they're like, I don't understand how you know when to use which of these ciphers. And I always say the same thing. They're a system. These are the four base ciphers, the alphabetic order forwards and backwards. It's just obvious that they're just one system. You just use them, you know? So I don't know how else to explain it. It can be more transparent that this is how it's done. You know, they're putting words together that hold the values, alphabetic order forwards and backwards. Like, again, I always go to the JFK example. Catholics 35 and 46. JFK, the 35th president, dead at age 46. Both systems in use together. And this Catholic 71, 145 thing, for another recent example from Catholic history, how these numbers come together. You had the football coach at Michigan visiting the Pope just days before the NFL draft. Michigan's star player, who was supposed to go in the first round, he fell all the way to the 145th pick, which is, I forget, it was the fourth. I think it was late in the fourth round, maybe the fifth round. Either way, he fell really far. You're supposed to go in the first round. He falls to the 145th pick. The star player from Michigan, after his coach visits the Pope, and then he gets drafted by the Denver Broncos. And Denver Broncos equals 71. And we saw another Catholic ritual with that same player this year on the Jesuit order's birthday. His name's Jake Butt. He plays the position tight end. Butt, tight end, Catholic Church. Boys in tights. So anyway, these are the four base ciphers. You just use them as a system. It's seemingly how they do it. I get that question every single day. I'm like, didn't you just watch my video? I mean, isn't it obvious? Anyway, the name of that treaty also has Gematria of 191, like Society of Jesus, the full name of the Jesuits. When you write out February 11th, it's 187. When you write out Society of Jesus, it's also 187. And I realize there's one more thing to this. February 11th can also be written 2/11, like 211, the 47th prime. Vatican alone's 47. Right now, the current Pope is Francis, 47. So February 11th, 211, 211, the 47th prime. The whole thing is just loaded. It's not hard to see why it happened on this date, though. The Jesuits, the secret society within the Catholic Church. In 1945, President FDR, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and Soviet leader Joseph Stalin signed the Yalta Agreement, in which Stalin agreed to declare war against Imperial Japan following Nazi Germany's capitulation. So, 42nd day of the year, World War, war with the alphabetic order, 42, World War with the alphabetic order and rules numerology, 42. Japan, whose wars being declared against, 42. Again, if you haven't read my book on wars by the numbers, this is how it's been all throughout history. Yalta Agreement has this gematria of 147, like Freemason, also like conspiracy. 57, like Scottish Rite, also like conspiracy. 78, also like Scottish Rite. Hitler lectured about the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry when he was in power. He shut down all the Masonic lodges and called out the Scottish Rite specifically. In 1963, on this date, American author and poet Sylvia Plath was found dead in her London flat. Her death was blamed on a suicide. She was just 30 years old. And in light of her being a woman, 42nd day of the year, females 42, ladies 42, feminines 42, that's one thing. From her last birthday to her death was 107 days later. Ritual sacrifice 107. 107 is the 28th prime number, kill 28. Her name Sylvia Plath has gematria like sacrifice as well. Something tells me she didn't really commit suicide. In 1968, New York City's fourth and current Madison Square Garden, located on Manhattan's west side at the site of what used to be the Pennsylvania Station Building, opened with a salute to the USO, hosted by Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. The same evening, the New York Rangers played their first game at the Third Garden, their final game at the Third Garden, tying the Detroit Red Wings 3-3. Anyhow, 42nd day of the year, MSG, how Madison Square Garden is commonly referred to, the acronym, 42, like NYC. And you know what else? Something's jumping out at me just doing this live. 1968, we know what was up with that year. That was the year, 1968, the year the plan went into motion for September 11th. Remember how this year, past year, 2018, on November 11th, there were all of those rituals, and again, 11/11 on the Julian calendar, which kind of bumped time, the count by months, 2 months off. So on the Julian calendar, 11/11, sort of like 9/11. Remember on that date, 11/11, out of all the rituals that paid tribute to 1968 and the September 11th ritual, one of them was that the 68-year-old musician from Aerosmith collapsed at Madison Square Garden, the 68-year-old. And now I'm realizing Madison Square Garden opened in 68. So building on that riddle that we were already aware of. We just talked about Ayatollah Khomeini the other day by the numbers. How about this? In 1979, he seized power in Iran on this day. Iran 42. The nation that ever since 9/11, George W. Bush after 9/11 always been talking about the axis of evil. North Korea, Iran, and Iraq, who we invaded. But ever since then, they've always just built this narrative. Iran. It just seems that it's inevitable that someday they'll be used for the next planned major war, perhaps World War III. In 1986, Soviet dissident Nathan Sherinsky was released by the Soviet Union after 9 years of captivity as part of an East-West prisoner exchange. When you write out 9 as a word, it sums to 42. 9 years, the 42nd day. I'm sure there's a whole lot more to the riddle, but it's the 42 relationships that are popping here. In 2006, on this day, Vice President Dick Cheney accidentally shot and wounded Harry Whittington, a companion during a weekend quail hunting trip in Texas. And notice hunting is 42. Just in case you never seen me talk about this before, this accident was synced up perfectly with the death of Antonin Scalia, who died in a not far location on a quail hunting trip in Texas on February 13th, the 44th day of the year. Let me get the right post up here. Accidentally put in the wrong link, but hold on. Here it is. So from the day that Dick Cheney shot this guy in the face, February 11, 2006, to the day that Scalia died, February 13, 2016, exactly 522 weeks later. And any word that has an ordinal value of 87, Antonin as in Antonin Scalia, Justice 87, they said they found him with a pillow over his head 87, in the same cipher, Dick Cheney's 87. Any word with a value of 87 will have a Sumerian value of 522 because it's just 87 times 6. 87 times 6 is 522. So exactly 522 weeks from the Dick Cheney incident to Scalia's death. And again, both hunting quail trips, same region of Texas. There's an article you can look up. Scalia was supposedly on that hunting trip with his secret society buddies. I forget what they were called, but they even showed a picture of them. They wear these green cloaks. Something tells me Scalia didn't really die, you know. It's just all part of the political theater. And remember all the truth channels that don't have a clue because they ignored Gematria. They were all talking about like, ooh, was it a conspiracy by Obama to take out a conservative justice? Nope. False. Completely wrong. Nope. It was another planned, coordinated event that Gematria allows you to see right through. In 2008, on this date, the Pentagon charged Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 5 other detainees at Guantanamo Bay with murder and war crimes. Well, we know what's up with the war crimes, War 42. This was for the September 11th attacks. Notice the name Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in our most pure ciphers 96. Remember, there's the strong relationship with 42 and 96. You take the numbers that divide into 42, they add to 96. The word knowledge has gematria of 96 and 42, just like Freemason. And the word charge also has gematria of 42. Him and 5 others were charged. This came a span of 19 days from his birthday. Think about the 19 hijackers. He was arrested on his birthday, supposedly. In 2012, on this day, pop singer Whitney Houston was found dead in a bathtub in California. And, you know, black entertainer, 42nd day of the year. Years later, the same thing would happen with her daughter. Her daughter's death was a perfect ritual, which we covered very thoroughly at the time. Both found in bathtubs. But from Whitney's birthday, which was August 9th, to her death was 187 days later. 187, the homicide code in California. When you write out February 11th, it equals 187. 6 months and 3 days. That's also interesting because racism equals 63. Look at the word bathtub compared to killing. Overlap in 3 of the 4 ciphers. When you write out 42, in light of it being the 42nd day of the year, has gematria of 74, 38 like killing. 74-43 like bathtub. Of course, Masonic 74 and 43. Her daughter's death was no different. Remember, her daughter was in a coma for a long time. They pulled the plug by the numbers. In 2013, with a few words in Latin, Pope Benedict the 16th did what no pope had done in more than a half a millennium, announced his resignation. The bombshell came during a routine morning meeting at Vatican Cardinals. The 85-year-old pontiff was succeeded by Pope Francis. And again, Catholic Church on this day, the anniversary of Vatican City, Jesuit 42, he'd be replaced by the first publicly Jesuit pope, Pope Francis. The date of his resignation was a date with 46 numerology. Notice Benedict and Catholic both 46. In light of him being the 16th, if you write out 16 in the most pure cipher, the dark blue one, it's 33, but there's one S in 16. And remember, with S, it can be word 10 or 1. That's because S is the 19th letter. The numerology of 19 is 1 plus 9 is 10. And then 1 plus 0 is 1. It's the only letter you have to reduce 2 times. 16 has the connection to 42 as well, in light of him being the 16th on the 42nd day of the year. What I really think it had to do with, though, is just the first publicly Jesuit pope and the anniversary of Vatican City. 5 years ago today, President Barack Obama, during a joint White House news conference with French President Hollande, vowed to come down like a ton of bricks on businesses that violated Iranian sanctions while nuclear negotiations were underway, and conceded enormous frustration with stalled Syrian peace talks. Iran again on the 42nd day of the year? At the Sochi Games, I didn't even cover this one actually, but that was something else that happened. A woman had a big accomplishment for the German ski team. Skiing and female have that Gematria 42. We just saw Lindsey Vonn announce her retirement not long ago on a date with 42 numerology. One year ago, a Russian passenger plane crashed into a snowy field 6 minutes after taking off from Moscow, killing all 65 passengers and 6 crew members. Investigators would blame human error, saying the pilots had received flawed airspeed readings after failing to turn on a heating unit for the measurement equipment. Russia has that connection to 42. We saw that number come up in a big way when Trump and Putin met in Helsinki last year. Amid swirling winds, 17-year-old snowboarder Red Gerard won the United States' first gold medal of the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea, capturing the men's slopestyle event. I didn't cover that, but Olympic does have the Gematria 42. Singer Vic Damone, who possessed what Frank Sinatra once called the best pipes in the business, died in Florida at the age of 89. What I noticed about this man's death is he died 121 days before his upcoming 90th birthday. Again, no one's going to question the death of an 89-year-old. But 121 days, blood sacrifice has that connection to 121. Blood sacrifice also sums to 86, like the name Vic Damone. And he also died 4 months and 1 day before his birthday. Vic Damone's also 41, so there might be a deeper riddle there. Or maybe it's all just a coincidence. There is an organic side to this code, but just got to wonder. So, one of the top stories today was that the new Muslim congresswoman, she was being shamed for anti-Semitic tweets. And it just seems that the new definition of anti-Semitism is anything that criticizes Israel. Any criticism of Israel at all is anti-Semitic. And I actually saw this brought up this morning on CNN, and they talked about this at length. And then very quickly they went over Donald Trump's tweet about Native Americans and what his son said in response, which we'll get to. But they covered that in like 5 seconds after talking about this, for I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. So today's the 42nd day of the year, and this happened over the weekend, but today it was front and center in the news cycle. She had to apologize today. Zionism, of course, is 42. 42nd day of the year. You know, who's the greatest enemy of Israel? Of course, it's the Islamic nations. You know, they have us fighting their wars against the Islamic people of the world right now. Of course, they're also using their aircraft paid for by us to bomb Islamic people right now. So, got the first Islamic woman in Congress, or one of two. And here, I'll just read this. Democratic Rep. Omar apologized Monday afternoon for controversial tweets about the Israel lobby in the United States after her comments were denounced by House Democratic leaders as anti-Semitic tropes. By the way, I noticed that trope was the word they kept using. Trope. I guess I'll just show you real quick. What do you think trope equals? And it reminded me how we just we moved forward that anti-BDS bill with 74 votes. Trope 74, like Jewish, you know the rest of the list. In a post on Twitter, Omar unequivocally apologized for the earlier tweets. By the way, she didn't vote for the anti-BDS thing, and said her intention was never to offend her constituents or Jewish Americans as a whole. But the freshman lawmaker, who was one of the first two Muslim women elected to Congress last fall, added that she was not backing down on the problematic role of lobbyists in our politics. So it reads, anti-Semitism is real, and I am grateful for Jewish allies and colleagues, this is her apology, who are educating me on the painful history of anti-Semitic tropes. My intention is never to offend my constituents or Jewish Americans as a whole. You know what? I want to come back here and make a point about the plural of tropes. Tropes is 93. Do you remember what the vote was? It was 74 to move the bill forward, 19 against, 93 votes. I just called Lift the Veil and was explaining to him how important these numbers are, 74 and 93 to Israel. So trope and tropes, no wonder they're using the word. My intention is never to offend my constituents or Jewish Americans as a whole. We have to always be willing to step back and think through criticism, just as I expect people to hear me when others attack me for my identity. This is why I unequivocally apologize. See, of course she's a puppet on strings, and this whole thing is a sick joke, but I just wish she weren't, and I wish she'd say, I'm not apologizing for anything. I didn't say anything offensive. I didn't say anything anti-Semitic. I spoke facts. We're going to get to what she said. At the same time, I reaffirm the problematic role of lobbyists in our politics, whether it be AIPAC, the NRA, or the fossil fuel industry. It's gone on too long, and we must be willing to address it. Earlier Monday, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other Democratic leaders demanded the Minnesota Democrat apologize, which she did just before 3 p.m. Legitimate criticism of Israel's policies is protected by the values of free speech and democratic debate that the United States and Israel share, the leaders said in a joint statement. But Congresswoman Omar's use of anti-Semitic tropes and prejudicial accusations about Israel's supporters is deeply offensive. We condemn these remarks, and we call upon Congresswoman Omar to immediately apologize for these hurtful comments. Just wait until we get to what she said. It's nothing. And it also you can just white out the first sentence because it's obviously not true. You know, you obviously can't criticize Israel or you'll be called anti-Semitic. In a post on Twitter, Pelosi said she and Omar had discussed the tweets. A proponent of the BDS boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement aimed at putting economic and political pressure on Israel over its treatment of Palestinians. Omar first tweeted Sunday night that money was driving U.S. politicians to defend Israel. So her thing was copying this statement from Glenn Greenwald, who makes documentaries, and then write, it's all about the Benjamin's baby. So Glenn Greenwald wrote, GOP leader Kevin McCarthy threatens punishment over their criticisms of Israel. It's stunning how much time U.S. political leaders spend defending a foreign nation, even if it means attacking free speech rights of Americans. So this is supposedly the thing that was so hateful that she did. Shared his tweet and wrote, "It's all about the Benjamin's baby." She then tweeted that AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, was paying politicians to support Israel. AIPAC. And then she shares this comment. Would love to know who thinks is paying American politicians to be pro-Israel, though I think I can guess. Bad form, Congresswoman. That's the second anti-Semitic trope you've tweeted. Omar, a Somali refugee, came under fire from Democrats and Republicans who viewed the comment about a want for Benjamins being the reason why Israel is so solidly supported by the U.S. government as an anti-Semitic trope involving Jews and money. It's just that you can't state the facts. I mean, these things are inseparable. Then here comes Chucky Schumer. Rep. Omar's use of an anti-Semitic stereotype was offensive and irresponsible. This is the same guy who's making it so that we can't use our First Amendment. Same guy who violates the Constitution. This kind of intolerance has no place in Congress or anywhere in American society. No one should invoke anti-Semitic tropes during policy disagreements. Oh, it's sick, man. When someone uses hateful and offensive tropes and words against people of any faith, I mean, what's hateful? It's all about the Benjamins? That's so hateful? I will not be silent. Congresswoman Omar's statements are deeply hurtful to Jews, including myself, implying that Americans support Israel because of money alone is offensive enough. But to go a step further and retweet someone declaring their pain at her sentiment is simply unacceptable. At a time when anti-Semitic attacks are on the rise, our leaders should not be invoking hurtful stereotypes and caricatures of Jewish people to dismiss those who support Israel. In the Democratic Party and in the United States of America, we celebrate the diversity of, let's cut off. But God, they're just such a bunch of crybabies. I mean, Rep. Josh Gottheimer. For nearly 2 weeks, Rep. Omar has avoided meeting with me to discuss why anti-Semitic tropes like these are hurtful to so many Americans. There is absolutely no place for this rhetoric in Congress or anywhere. One of the oldest anti-Semitic conspiracies is about Jewish money as an instrument of global domination. Well, why do you think that is? Because it is like the world's oldest conspiracy. I mean, the sentence right there. It's not anti-Semitic, though. One of the oldest conspiracies is about Jewish money as an instrument of global domination. I mean, for anybody out there who has Netflix, you can go watch that Four Blood Moons, and you can see that smiling Jew who's just so proud of being a Zionist, and how he says, if it wasn't for Jewish bankers, there'd be no America. We paid for the wars. See the fake anti-Semitic protocols of Zion. And here's Marco Rubio, who led the anti-BDS. We should all be spamming Marco Rubio. What about the Talmud, Goy? She might as well have tweeted, "In our hands is the greatest power of our day, gold." Yeah, she might as well have. Remember how what they did on, God, what day was it? August 21st, 2017. That's what day it was, the day of the eclipse. Remember what they did that day? They had the Jewish head of the treasury, the guy who they did the story, how he did the wallpaper in his house with the dollar bills. But they had him at at Fort Knox to do the audit of the gold, something that hadn't happened for decades, and they did that on the day of the solar eclipse. Well, that's funny because in alchemy, gold is represented by the sun. So on the day that the sun is blacked out across the whole nation, something that hadn't happened in a century, or 99 years to be exact, they do an audit of the gold. Isn't the symbolism just clearly there? There is no gold. The sun's blacked out. The sun's gone. The gold's gone. They send a Jewish guy to do it. I mean, AIPAC, what it should say here is AIPAC, the lobby that every president goes before anyone else, but instead it says AIPAC, a nonprofit that does not donate directly to candidates, but works to promote a staunchly pro-Israel message in Washington, responded to Omar, tweeting that it is proud that we are engaged in the democratic process to strengthen U.S. No, they're not engaged in a democratic process. They're engaged in, destroying democracy and silencing critics and silencing truth and punishing people who speak out about the truth. They're engaged in a fascist operation, a totalitarian operation. That's what they're engaged in. Our bipartisan efforts are reflective of American values and interests. The group continued. Yeah, the interest of Americans continuing to send money to Israel and paying all their bills for them. We will not be deterred in any way by ill-informed and illegitimate attacks on this important work. Chelsea Clinton, the daughter of former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, tweeted that she would reach out to Omar's office on Monday to discuss anti-Semitic tropes. Omar tweeted that she would be happy to chat with Clinton. All right, I can't read any more of these. It's just too much. It's too much. Anyhow, this woman was getting shamed on her 130th day of her age. Washington 130. I'll remind you that Washington's coordinates are the 77th meridian, the 38th parallel, Judaism 77, Jew 38. I don't think that's an accident. I do not. Notice the 4 months and 7 days too, kind of like 47, the DC government number. So anyway, CNN was going hard on that story. They must have said the word anti-Semitism 10,000 times. And then they talked about how Donald Trump put out a tweet. This one. Today, Elizabeth Warren sometimes referred to me as, today Elizabeth Warren sometimes referred to by me as Pocahontas joined the race for president. Will she run as our first Native American presidential candidate? Or has she decided that after 32 years, this is not playing so well anymore? See you on the campaign trail, in all caps, Liz. And people said, is he invoking the Trail of Tears, bringing back the Native genocide? And so far the White House came out and said, no, he was just talking about the campaign trail. But it's obvious that, by emphasizing the word trail, he was pointing to multiple meanings. And in light of the whole Native theme and the Pocahontas thing, it's not hard to see where he's going. So then what's his douchebag son come out and say? He calls his dad a savage. Now, how does the word savage fit in here? Of course, that's the stereotype for Native Americans. They're savages. They're godless heathens. They don't have Bibles. They deserve to be made into fertilizer. Now, here we'll just call it manifest destiny. It just amazes me how many people, you guys, because I have this Gematria hotline, just people call me all the time. And there was even a woman who called yesterday who was pretty reasonable. And she said, the only thing I disagree with you on is Donald Trump. And I really do believe that he was sent here by God. And I was just like, and I got to tell you, I mean, it's for those of you who are like me, you understand how insane that sounds. This woman wasn't insane. Everything she said up to this point was on point. But then she got to this, I was just like, well, I'm going to have to agree to disagree with you because I really don't feel that way at all. I feel that he's here to mock us. And he doesn't remind me of a godly creature at all. The whole time this guy's been here, if you have not seen my video, for anyone who's never seen this video right here, here's how you find it. You go to YouTube and you search Zachary Hubbard, February 2016, Donald Trump. That's what you got to search. Zachary Hubbard, February 2016, Donald Trump. It's this one right here. This is a re-upload. It's from February 24th, 2016. It's the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. Probably because I was speaking the truest things I ever said. But watch that video. I was talking about how Donald Trump had been on the campaign trail and he was purposely putting out all this divisive rhetoric, stuff that'll alienate and piss off every group of people there are in this nation. And I said, look at what's going on in the media right now. Racially divisive stories every single day. All of this stuff to divide us. And now you have this guy up here who's just like going after every group, just like a troll trying to piss everybody off. And I mean, it's the same thing now 3 years later. Nothing's different. And for people to think this is divine, I mean, divine, really? I don't understand people, but no, these people are assholes, you know. They really are chumps. They're the chump family. And anyway, just understand both of these tweets by father and son, like father like son, Donald Jr. They were put out February 9th, 29. Trump has that Gematria 29. We'll get to how Elizabeth Warren announced by the numbers. By the way, Pocahontas equals 40. February 9th was the 40th day of the year. That's also the same day that she announced she was running. And we've been talking about Elizabeth Warren and Trump and how they have the matching numbers for, well, since the campaign, 2015, 2016, which we'll go over here in a moment. CNN's headlines and the way they covered it on their website made it seem like it was a lot bigger detail to them than the way they did it on the TV. On the TV, they just covered it in like 5 seconds, just blew right past it after all the anti-Semitism thing. I was like, that seems to deserve more attention than the remarks by this congresswoman, who just got here. I'm more concerned about what the president's saying, making fun of the genocide of the natives, him being the face of the nation. So today, the 42nd day of the year, I put out a video on this morning. 42nd day of the year, we've been talking about how Kamala Harris announced on Martin Luther King Jr. holiday that she was running for president. Martin 42. Now on the 42nd day of the year, she's defending her blackness. The 42nd day. I'm sure a lot of you heard me call her office. I sent them my book. I haven't heard anything back, but I guess it didn't make any difference because if she's going to go participate in this on the 42nd day of the year, I guess her puppet strings, there's just no way to cut them. Not that I really expected it to have any impact, but hey, you don't know unless you try. So, and as they say, there is no try, there's just do. But sometimes you got to try before you figure out how to do. Another story today that was front and center. This happened yesterday, of course, at the awards, but CNN had this up front and center this morning on the 42nd day of the year. A rapper named Childish Gambino, again, childish, like Lil, like baby, like boy. Gambino, a gangster family, so stereotypes, Boy Gangster, might as well be his name. Boy Gangster, with his hit album and song This Is America, won the big award yesterday, the 139th day of the year. America, Freemasonry, the Bavarian Illuminati, it's all 139. Big old number. Don't forget Westworld's 139. Don't forget Jewish State's 139. You know who runs the Grammys. But check out the video I put out this morning. There's a few other things there. Right now, there's a major police presence on the border in Eagle Pass, Texas. And notice this shot right here. This is the Mexican side. Here's the U.S. side. You got a police presence on both sides. Think about that. New World Order. But this shot's from February 9th, right? February 9th, date that can be written 9/2. And the reason they're there is because a migrant caravan was arriving. Migrant Caravan 92. The mention of 1 police for every 13 residents, that'll probably be the ratio of the future America, where the only jobs are police or military. But that mention of 13 and in this picture right here, 188, 13, Bavarian Illuminati's 188, 13 families. I was just like, is that a coincidence? Just symbolism. It's reminding us of what the Illuminati, their creation of the world we live in, looks like. Police, military, wars, banking debt. All right, so Trump's kicking off his presidential campaign today in El Paso, down near the border crisis. Finish the wall. Hey, let's just run the gematria on that. Finish the wall. What's that equal? Is it relevant? Finish the wall. I see a 205 like an all-seeing eye. I see a 70 like his age when he took office. I see 146 like his birthday, June 14th. United Kingdom equals 146. And whenever I say United Kingdom, you know what? United Kingdom equals 65 too. When I say United Kingdom, I don't just think of the UK. I think of the United States. Because I think the United Kingdom, what it really is the New World Order. The world the British bankers and British military generals built. Actually, wow. United Kingdom's the exact same in all four ciphers, isn't it? Let's try that again. Huh. Of course, Donald Trump, his family's over there from the UK. And his whole, now that I think about it, man, his whole GOP convention in 2016 was synced up with the Queen Elizabeth. That's interesting. Finish the wall. So today, in light of Trump kicking off the presidential campaign for 2020, again, it's February 11th, 2/11, like 211, the 47th prime. We know the list for 47, right? President, White House, government, authority, Republican, Democrat, DC, it's all 47. The Apprentice equals 211. The name Trump equals 47. Today is also the 42nd day of the year, the big Freemason number. Mason in Jewish Gematria is 211. You could also write today 11/2, like 112. Donald's 112. So there's all sorts of things there in today's date for Donald to kick it off. Actually, I just want to look at one more thing. Sometimes when I'm talking, my better ideas come out. Let's see. February 11th, 2019 to the election's November 3rd, 2020. 631 days. Is that a prime number? I don't think it is. Maybe it is. Just wanted to see how many days it was to the election. It is. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So it is a prime number. It's the 115th, which is interesting because when Donald Trump took office, it was with the 115th Congress. And remember, he went on the thank you tour, which seems so weird. Just pointing that out then. Do you remember this? Donald Trump's thank you tour after he won. And I was like, thank you, 115. He's taking office with the 115th Congress. Okay. Masonic, of course, is also 115. Freemasons, the plural is 115. El Paso, for the record, sums to 23 like Donald. El Paso is also 68 like Donald John Trump, like Donald J. Trump, also like The Apprentice. El Paso, Texas, 137 like Washington, D.C., like government, like authority, big Kabbalah number. In case you missed the video I put out over the weekend, Elizabeth Warren, she launched her presidential campaign, again, on the 40th day of the year. We know Pocahontas is 40, but I wasn't looking at that when I first thought about this. What I was looking at is how the day she announced was 133 days from her birthday. And she's from Oklahoma City, which equals 133. So does president, so does White House, so does government. So what a perfect day for her to announce. And that was also 33 weeks and 1 day after her last birthday, which is kind of like 133 in reverse. And then it reminded about Trump being the 133rd richest man as reported during the time he was running for office. And Trump and Elizabeth are both 88. Remember, Trump came out to his GOP convention to the band Queen, We Are the Champions, 88 days after Queen Elizabeth's birthday. Her full name, Elizabeth Ann Warren's also 88. So big old 88. Donald Trump, his whole life's about 88. And here it is again, Queen Elizabeth's birthday to the day Trump came out to Queen, We Are the Champions, 88 days. Headline the next day from what she said, Elizabeth Warren, Trump may not even be free person by 2020. And we just saw, didn't Rosie O'Donnell just say that too? They're all actors, it doesn't matter. May not even be a free person equals 110, also like president. Ronald Reagan has those big parallels to Trump. Ronald Reagan with the alphabetic order is 110. Trump stole his motto. So I saw someone on CNN today say it'd be impossible for Donald Trump to be removed from office before the next election. So I'll remember they said that. A lot of people asked me about this, if I had an opinion on this. February 4th was the day this happened. There were Black Hawk helicopters doing, well, it was reported as drills, flying through the city of Los Angeles, doing maneuvers between the skyscrapers. And, you know, February 4th, a date that can be written 4/2 like 42, military war exercises. These things do take place in the world. Seemingly, the drills are even done by the numbers. Does it mean a big event's on the horizon? I mean, it could. It's always good to pay attention to the drills, but, you know, I'll take you back to Jade Helm. Remember when Jade Helm was going on, everybody was freaking out. And I was saying, well, I wouldn't freak out, but the numbers in Jade Helm are interesting. I didn't know reverse gematria back then, but I knew what was up with 58 and Freemasonry. But notice Freemasonry, 58, 158, Jade Helm. And now we're talking about another military exercise on February 4th, Freemason. 42, again, this is the nation that's named after the military war general. Or I guess the nation's not named after him, but, you know, the nation's capital is Washington, D.C. Of course, Washington's the 42nd state. Washington's getting record snow this year in 2019, which is another subject, but got to live through my first blizzard this weekend. Fence is really messed up. 24 straight hours of crazy wind. I'm so thankful that this area I live in has underground power lines, which seems so weird to me because now I live out in the middle of nowhere and the power lines are underground. They didn't have that in Seattle, but didn't have any power problems through the insane winter storm. Anyway, you know, I wouldn't panic over this, but I would just take note and just recognize how they do things by the numbers. But I'm sure, you know, eventually one day all these drills that they're practicing for, they will come to fruition. So it's never good to freak out and get all panicked, though. People always contact me. I'm worried about this. I'm freaking out about this. Well, don't freak out. It's not going to help anything. I mean, somebody asked if I could look into this. I overlooked this death. Glad I got this tip. Ron Miller, former NFL football player for the Rams, just dropped dead at age 85. Remember the Super Bowl was just off Route 85 there that goes right by the stadium in Atlanta. Atlanta, Georgia equals 85. So does National Football League. So does Brady. The other year, the Falcons, when they played in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, they had that giant section of freeway, big square section collapsed to the ground, and they blamed it on somebody smoking crack under the freeway. I mean, can you believe that? Somebody smoking crack under the bridge caused the whole thing to collapse. And nobody questions this stuff. Anyway, this guy was also the CEO of Disney. Disney, who owns a lot of television companies. They own ABC. They don't own CBS. This year the Super Bowl's on CBS. But anyway, look at this. This guy died February 9th at age 85. And I have no doubt that this guy was sacrificed for the Super Bowl. From the day he died to his upcoming birthday, April 17th, guess how many days? 67 days. The blood sacrifice number. Dead 67 days before his 86th birthday. 67, 86 blood sacrifice. Now, he played for the Rams for just one season, 56, which was how many years ago now? 63 years ago. What did Tom Brady just do in the Super Bowl? He just became 6-3. And remember, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where the Super Bowl was, equals 307. It was Tom Brady's 307th career game, which is the 63rd prime number. 307, the 63rd prime. This guy in the league 63 years ago. Mercedes-Benz Stadium also 109, the 29th prime. Football 29. And this guy dead on February 9th, 29 at age 85. National Football League 85, Brady 85, Football, 29. His name, Ronald Miller, equals 133. Ron Miller, also 53, dead right after Super Bowl 53. The score of Super Bowl 53 was 13-3, kind of like 133. Football's also 133. I guess you could say, in light of working for the gang, he was lucky to live as long as he did. Over the weekend, there was the death of a British rapper as well. I put out a video on this in case you missed it. He was 28 years old. He died in the early hours of February 9th. Again, ritual sacrifice is 107. It's the 28th prime, kill 28. Talked about this in the opening with This Day in History. He died on a date with 30 numerology. He was a British rapper from England. Cadet equals 30, England 30, dead on a 30 date. His number was up. They said he had a cousin named Krept, who's another rapper, who just turned 29 years old. And notice Krept equals 29. This guy died on February 9th, 2/9. So looks like he was the ritual for his cousin. Goes back to that song, Murder by Numbers, about how, you know, killing is the way to the top of your profession. So I guess Krept is on his way up while his cousin is literally on his way down. Another big story over the weekend. We actually covered a little bit this Friday night. It got more interesting. They did a news story and they showed the address of where he was killed. They zoomed in on it, the news, so everybody saw the address, 3220-322, the old Skull and Bones number. And turns out this guy, his last Facebook post was January 21st. 121, like blood sacrifice 121, blood sacrifice also 67, and what he post was guess I'll die, which equals 67. And then from the day of the post to the day he died was a span of 18 days. Die equals 18 in 3 of the 4 base ciphers. The news broke the next day, a span of 19 days later. His name's Kyle. And again, that's news. The news broke on the 39th day of the year. Nashville, 39. Yorlet's 39. Kyle Yorlet's 167, the 39th prime. Did put out a couple videos on this over the weekend, so you can check those out. But the big thing that the news announced is they're about to come out with their first album. And I guarantee, because of this man's death, this album's going to sell way more than it would have before. Because a lot of us now know about this band and this man. You know, probably the majority of the nation never heard of him before. Now a lot of us have. This was a big news story over the weekend. From the day of the news to the day the album releases is 50 days. Kyle Yorlet's 50. I'm sure there'll be a little thing in there that says, in memory of Kyle. Hold up. I forgot to link some posts up here. Here we go. Somebody asked if I could look into the deaths of Richard Pryor, Robin Harris, and Ebony Raines. So real quick, I want to do that, and then I'll come back to this T.I. story, just since we're talking about deaths. Richard Pryor died just after his 65th birthday. I'm sure you guys all know who Richard Pryor is, the comedian. Comedy equals 65. Dropped dead right after his 65th birthday. 9 days later, completion 9. 9 also has that relationship with 42, a black man. The day he died, December 10th, has the Gematria 67, like blood sacrifice. Blood sacrifice, also 121, like we just talked about. Think about the day he died, 12/10, 121 in that sequence. And date with 47 numerology, Richard 47. So there might be more to it. I guess Tom Petty's house burned there too. Interesting. Another comedian, somebody asked me to look at, the death of Robin Harris. He died on the 77th day of the year, dead from a heart attack as well. Robin Harris, 77. Robin, 77. Dead in Chicago, the city divided into 77 neighborhood areas. He dropped dead at age 36 from a heart attack 36. And from his death to his upcoming birthday that year was 166 days. I saw that, just made me think about how secret society is 166 and 77. Again, dead on the 77th day of the year. And Ebony Range, there's not a lot of information. She died on February 8th, and she was just 20 years old. She was almost 21. But dead on February 8th, 28, like 28. Again, that ritual sacrifice kill thing, 107 to 28 prime. The day she died was a date with 48 numerology as well. And her breakout song that got her famous where she was had Gematria 48. The song was called Dance Floor. As for dying at age 20, remember what's special about that number? Death, time, cross, seasons, they all equal 20. The 20th letter is T, and a lowercase t looks just like a cross, which is a symbol associated with time and death and the seasons. She was buried on March 24th, which is a strange thing. That's the 83rd day of the year. Murder 83. She was buried 44 days after she died. Kill 44. And then I noticed this blurb in the Google thing that I'd never caught before when I looked up this date. March 24th is the 365th and last day in many European implementations of the Julian calendar. So that made me start to think about how March 25th can be written 325, like the Council of Nicaea, in 325 AD, which is connected to the Catholic Church, just like the calendar systems we're on. So something more to think about there. All right. Now, here's something that is even worth covering, but I just saw this story. You know, Chrissy Teigen invited AOC to watch the Grammys. So we just have to hear about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez every day. But as soon as I saw this, I was like, I bet this story is perfectly synced up with Chrissy Teigen's birthday because isn't it always in the news? So I looked at her birthday, Chrissy Teigen. She's 33 right now, the magic number. This news story came February 9th news story. From her birthday to the day of the news story, 71 days. What's Chrissy Teigen equal in the most pure ciphers? 71. And again, if you're trying to wake people up to Gematria, you just want to teach them one cipher, teach them this one, because you can see through almost every news cipher just using this, as I did for 3 years before we even started talking about reverse. But even just dumb stuff like this, it's just by the numbers. It's like an AI generates the news. T.I. announced a boycott of Gucci. He said that this thing they put out was blackface. So just one more story for us to hear about the blackface. And he announced this boycott on February 8th, 28. Of course, boycott in our most pure ciphers, 28. And from his birthday to the day the news happened was his 137th day of his age. Big Kabbalah number. Gucci and T.I. both equal 25. He's born on September 25th. That's also the day that leaves 97 days left in the year, the 25th prime. So T.I. is really 25. And, you know, perfect guy to boycott Gucci, Mr. 25, T.I. T.I. getting political. Another dumb story, but just more news by the numbers. Julian Edelman has his beard shaved after the Super Bowl win. Remember, he was the first Jewish Super Bowl MVP by the numbers as we covered. Super Bowl most valuable player equals 108. It was 108 days from his birthday, the Super Bowl. But he gets the beard shaved on Ellen, and they emphasize Ellen. Ellen 21, beard 21. Now, you know what it is about 21? It's the 6th triangular number. Brady just got his 6th Super Bowl, just like Belichick is a head coach at age 66. And remember, before the game, the rapper Savage 21, or is it 21 Savage? I think it's 21 Savage. Supposedly he got arrested by the numbers, detained for being an illegal immigrant in the city of Atlanta where the Super Bowl was. And what did I say? I said, that's just pointing to the whole 6 ritual. We were talking about it all year. So... LeBron James got his 77th triple-double, by the way, you guys, against Boston. Every LeBron James triple-double is a story in numbers. Every last one of them is 77th against Boston. Of course, the Lakers, Celtics, longtime rivalry. Saw another sports headline here. a guy named Israel, maybe, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Adesanya, Israel Adesanya, maybe. But notice this headline, MMA star says he controls the matrix. So when I clicked on that, it came to this. He controls the matrix. And I saw his name was Israel, and I was like, oh, interesting. But then I saw that this whole thing was for UFC 234, right? Controls the matrix 234. A story for UFC 234. It just shows. I mean, I hate when people come and say, I'm obsessed with numbers. It's like, no. The only thing I'm obsessed with is helping people see through what's being done, you know, and how obsessed the people who control our media are with this code. Yesterday, these were two of CNN's top headlines. And I thought, weird. I don't remember ever reading two headlines about genitals. Officer used taser on man's genitals, says lawsuit accusing Arizona police of torture. Why do guys send pics of their genitals? Here are some theories. I was like, what in the world? Two stories about genitals, huh? So genitals has the gematria 33 and 48 like sex, which doesn't that make sense? And the story about the man getting tased, that was in Glendale, Arizona. Glendale's 33. It's also on the 33rd parallel. The guy's name was Johnny Wheatcroft. Doesn't that name just sound like BS? Maybe not. Some people have funny names. But his initials, JW33. And then I noticed right away, Johnny Wheatcroft, 74. Number we often find with 33. Like, for example, only one state has gematria 74. It's the Oregon, the 33rd state. Wheatcroft's also got that 47. A lot of numbers jump out in his name, including the 205 for all-seeing eye. And then looking at this story about why men send pictures of their genitals, it says 88% of people from a survey have sexted, which means sending some picture of your private parts. And I'm thinking, is that a real stat? I mean, is it really 88%? So I got to caution people, you know, it's widely known that these telecommunication companies are collecting all of our information. They have immunity from doing it. So that means that somewhere, all these texts that you send, and this could come back to haunt me too. I haven't been doing any sexting, but there's other text messages for me that, woo! Anyway, all this stuff's being stored somewhere. So you want to be like humiliated someday, destroyed? I mean, somebody out there somewhere has the keys to do it. But yeah, I don't know why they had both those stories up in that one day. I just thought, weird. Two genital stories, huh? I thought this was fitting after getting shamed in the grocery aisle last Friday night for having all my potato chips up on the counter. I'm glad that guy did that to me. But this was one of the top stories from CNN today. Eating ultra-processed foods accelerates your risk of early death, study says. And ultra-processed has that gematria 59, and Jewish gematria kills 59. We know that these foods that they give us, they are meant to bring us to an early demise, and they're meant to get us sick because sick people are people that, you know, big profits can be made off of. Health and wellness is big business, and it's very expensive. And most people are afraid of dying. That's why they take advantage of us. You know, people don't want to die, so they'll cough up the big dough to stay alive. That's why it's better when you're young to eat right. Just like that old man told me. He said he eats no food with preservatives. He eats entirely organic. And he's seen a major improvement in his health. And I'm sure he has. And that's true for anybody who does that. So I eat pretty well, but I could eat better, you know. So, interesting story today. Another tabloid story. Richard Gere had a baby boy today, the 42nd day of the year. Of course, boy with the alphabetic order equals 42. His wife's just 35 years old. Big age gap. She's about to turn 36 in just a handful of days here. But in light of them emphasizing that Richard Gere is 69, it just took me back to, do these people have any control over their lives, or are they made to do these rituals? Look at the name Richard Gere with the alphabetic order and the alphabetic order in rules of numerology, 96 and 69. And then his boy's born on the 42nd day of the year. It's probably a cesarean section. His wife, she's like the same age as me. Her birthday is the 47th day of the year. So what is that? 5 days from today. So when you write out 5, it equals 42. 5 days before her birthday. Baby boy, by the way, equals 36. So she has her baby boy just before her 36th birthday. 5 days before. And I think that was the end of it. So I see you guys are having a nice conversation about health here. At least one person is. You guys, I don't want to sound like a little wimpy crybaby, but I've been doing this whole podcast with my left eye closed and my hand over it. I've been telling you guys that my eyes hurt. I got my glasses on the way. What I did yesterday was I spent a lot of time outside shoveling snow yesterday, and I should have been wearing sunglasses because my eyes have never felt worse today. And my left eye, especially, for whatever reason, my left eye is worse. But I would like to wrap this up and give the eye some rest here. And I'm looking forward to my new blue, what are they called? I forget. Blue light blocking glasses. I think they're going to make a big difference. Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm snowblind. So anyway, we'll wrap it up here for tonight. I went with the brand that caller recommended last week. I read the reviews. They seem to have good reviews. I think it's called Swanwick, something like that. Swanwick, I think that was it. Gunners. What, are Gunners better? Should I have gotten some Gunners? Thanks, Ron. Ron doesn't have a wrench yet. He does on the sports channel. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up, you guys. The eye needs a good resting, and be back tomorrow. Appreciate all of you. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Let me read some comments here. I'll check out the Gunners. The NFL lawyer story was a hoax, Tommy. They bring up that story every year. It's the same story. It comes up every year in the Super Bowl. Look into it. It's not a real story. Every year they do the same thing. Every year I've been doing this, that same story comes up, and then the media comes out and says it's a fake story. Every year it's like Groundhog's Day. Dan Goods. Okay, is that something I need to look up? Larry Guiders. Of course, welcome for the wrench. T-Wolves beat the Clippers. Okay. Playboy said they're invisible. August 11th. Check my message. First digits 239. Okay. Where's the message at? I have so many places to look for messages. Is it here? On the phone. Okay. All right. I'll go look for it. Gematria hotline. Okay. Can you tell me what your phone number starts with? The first 3 digits? The Gematria hotline just gets text after text. Good job, M equals. $239. Got it. 239. I will find the text. Thank you for sending it to me. You didn't have to put it all out there. I'm going to check out Escape from LA. I haven't done that yet, but I will. All right, you guys. I'm going to be back tomorrow with an eye patch, I think. Have a good night, everybody. Really appreciate all of you being here again and supporting. And hope you have a great rest of your evening or your day, depending on where you are in the world. Until next time, Truth Seeker.